Justin, thank you so much for joining us today in the Communicative Leader. I'm so excited about your path and kind of learning more about what you've done and how that's impacting how you lead and communicate now. And for our listeners, you spent years with the Kansas City Chiefs before founding Guild Collective. And I know in professional sports, the focus is often the scoreboard, right? This is a very immediate
100%.
And clear element that helps people to consider progress. But you argue that communication is a strategic asset. So what was the specific organizational headache, or what were those obstacles you kept bumping into that you witnessed in the front office that taught you that the technical excellence without intentional connection, it's just a recipe for failure?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Dr. Leah, thanks for having me on. It's such a pleasure, and admire your work and know that you are quite literally shaping the future of communications with students and the work you do. So yeah, it's a pleasure to have conversations like this. Yeah. It's such a great question. Where my thoughts kind of go is the connectivity to the human sounds so simple to say on a podcast or in a conversation, but when you're in the kind of the throes of corporate culture, it's so simple. And I've done this for sure. Like it's so simple to minimize or discard the humanity. And you hear phrases like, well, leave that at the door, or this is business, not personal. Like all these kind of crazy things that when you investigate them and inquire about them, you're like, wait, I don't think that that's necessarily true. And so I think that, whether it was any of my corporate career or my own leadership of going, hey, when you lose sight of that human connectivity, things generally don't go great. So
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. I really love that you acknowledge that on the surface, this seems so easy. And I think we make these assumptions that, of course, I'm thinking about people. But then when we take a step back and think about what we actually said or how that was framed or approached, we realize like, nope, those interpersonal relationships were definitely secondary or tertiary or really not considered.
Totally. And as communicators, right, the assumption is that person needs to do a lot of the talking or communicating. But as you know, way better than I do, the other side of that is as or more important on the curiosity side, on the listening side, on the body language side, on the how are you showing up? Are you distracted? Are you looking at your phone? Are you not really engaging with me? And so much of communication is that subtle energy, awareness, paying attention to someone else other than yourself and what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah. And not easy to do, right? It's a practice.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So let's think about this myth of professional detachment. And Justin, you have a book. I love this, Give a Damn. And it challenges the ideas that leaders should keep this kind of safe, I'm doing quote marks, distance from employees, from their team. And I'm wondering, from your experience and from a communicative perspective, what is this kind of tax or cost organizations pay when leaders are prioritizing that politeness or that power distance over curiosity and compassion?
It's so interesting that you say this, because I just had a conversation with a good friend yesterday who sat down and had coffee with I don't remember what star, but this person was a general that taught communication and leadership at Fort Leavenworth with the Army. And this, my friend was floored because he was like, oh my gosh, he talks so much about the transformation around their own leadership expectations and moving from this, kind of older school command and control and hierarchy and follow your orders, obey, be compliant, right? Versus this much more, and I'll use air quotes, softer skills of curiosity, compassion, being clear, being vulnerable, being empathetic, being understanding. And the phrase that this general used was amoeba leadership. That it is required work of the leader to be like an amoeba and adapt to the environment in which the market exists, but also the environment in which their team resides and exists. And so anyway, to answer you, it's, the thesis around the book was this exploration of, can care actually be a competitive advantage? And it was kind of like, it was a question mark. It was, I mean, I hope it is. I want it to be. I think it should be. But can it be? And so I just started pulling all these strings of, former leaders that I loved and learned from and followed who exhibited, the phrase give a damn, who cared about me, versus, the ones who didn't. And I've certainly been in both camps, right? With my own leadership. I've definitely hurt and harmed, and I've definitely benefited and helped grow. But the thesis was, hey, can we find that, path or that trail in the woods to determine what are those components? Not perfect, not always, not forever, but like, what are the components that a leader can pay attention to and practice that can prioritize not either care or money, but both. Like, can they both be true? Yes. Yeah. 100%. And so, the book could have been called Both And, for sure.
No, I mean, there's so many important points you just raised. And I love that. So we used to say, employees, team, no matter how big you are, you adjust to the leader, to this one person who has this title. And now we're saying, like, no, leader, we need you to adapt. And I think too, bringing in the language we use, that has been I've been in this space a long time. And when I was doing my PhD work, if you associated love or empathy with leadership, I mean, I would have been laughed out of the room. And now, it would have been like, this isn't the space for you. And now, I mean, it is becoming so commonplace. And so important, transforming workplaces in a way that is so warming and exciting for me.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I'm on my own journey and path on that. I'm definitely not at the arrival stage, but it is so interesting to get feedback from our team, just sharing their experience about culture is a byproduct. It's not something you can like mandate. Hey, we have pizza party on Friday. Like, everybody come to culture day. It's like, that's not it. Like, culture grows out of like how they experience it. And so I think the tricky part is, at least for me, that transforming part of leadership is hard work, and it's kind of honestly scary work, because you got to look at yourself in the mirror and kind of be like, hey, how did I show up, and what was it like? And I can't get away with lazy, like, forward emails, like, please handle, thanks, like I got from my bosses back in the day. I'm like, please handle what? Like, what does that mean? What do you want me to handle? Anyway, I can go on and on, but it is like the landscape's changing, and people, and again, not everybody, unfortunately, has these options, but the people who have options are being quiet, and they're quote unquote complying until the second they have a better option. And that's what we're telling our own daughters as they start to graduate college and think about career, is like, well, who's the leader? That's literally like my first question. Not what's the company, like, who are you going to report to?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When there's so much you're thinking about mentoring and the modeling, especially when they're on that cusp of going into industry, that's such a pivotal moment. And what thoughtful guidance that you're giving them. Because you're right. It used to be, what's the salary? What's the company? Like, leadership was just
whatever.
Nice if you had it. But my dad would always tell me they call it work for a reason. Like, you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's work for a reason. So very different messaging. Yeah.
Our director of operations at Guild this week, her name's Chelsea. She's been with us for like 6 years, I think. She wrote a LinkedIn post that just said, I hear a lot from our crew, and she tagged me in it, but she's like, we say work doesn't have to suck. And it's like a picture of her working at the park while her kids running around and doing stuff. And it's like, it doesn't have to suck. Like, we have to accept that it's like, oh, just do this horrible thing until we're 65, and then maybe you can retire and enjoy our life. It's terrible.
Exactly. Gosh. Well, testament to you and the work that you're doing. Because I can tell you, as a leadership scholar, those are not common posts. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for that. So, Justin, let's talk about clarity for a minute as a leadership value. And so, on this show, and this is something I'm sure you've seen through iterations, a lot of times organizations talk about this harmless change, or this new initiative, but it blows up because there isn't intentional planning, there isn't communication associated with it. So, in your work in helping brands find their true voice, what's the most common communication slip that you've seen leaders do that inadvertently helps them to lose credibility during a brand or culture shift?
Oof, my gosh. I'm like, I feel like you're reading my diaries a little bit. Um, Clarity it was the hardest part of
Mhm.
the book for me. There's
Mhm.
I basically unpacked four C's, four components,
Okay.
which are curiosity, compassion, consistency is number four, but then clarity was number three.
Okay.
And, I opened that chunk with
Mhm.
Brene Brown's like money all-time quote, clear as kind. And then,
Mhm.
unpack like how clarity's been really hard for me, continues to be hard,
Yeah.
because especially as someone who exhibits like future state vision,
Mhm.
I'm kind of out front, like chopping through the forest going, hey guys, I think the trail's this way, come with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Which is the role, like that's important,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it can't be so detached from reality and that's when I'm
Mhm.
not helpful or clear. It is this really loose vision, quote unquote
Mhm.
vision. And
Yep.
I'm like, I don't understand why everybody doesn't get it exactly. Like, what do you mean you have
Mhm.
questions? Like, and I'd get
Yep.
frustrated for a long
Yeah.
time. I'd get frustrated with the
Yep.
questions. I'm like,
Yep.
damn it, your questions aren't
Yeah.
welcome here. I wouldn't say that, of
Yeah.
course, but like
Yeah. But yeah,
my
exactly. Yep.
my spirit, yeah, my
Mhm.
spirit was like, and ultimately that
Mhm.
all kind of just gets framed back to me of like, well,
Mhm.
they will run hard and fast and wherever you tell them, but you got to tell them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
ultimately that's
Yep.
this fearful part of me is like, what if I don't know, or what
Mhm.
if I don't
Yeah.
actually have any freaking idea,
Yep.
and I'm making it up and guessing. And so anyhow, the clarity chunk was really difficult, and I think to
Yep.
answer your question, or try to answer your question,
Mhm.
is when you can say a certain thing in a
Mhm.
boardroom or put it on a Google
Yep.
slide and be like, "Oh, this is our
Mhm.
strategy." But vision is has to be integrated. That's the EOS
Yep.
language that was so
Mhm.
helpful for me. And Rachel Burnett's our
Mhm.
COO, and God bless her
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
enduring such like random vision ideas at times. Because then she's like, well, she can discern and sort it out and help me get
Mhm.
clear. And then it's like, oh, got it. This is where the
Okay.
business is headed.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think the last comment I'd make is the EOS founder had this quote one time. It
Mhm.
said, "Vision without integration is hallucination." And so
Oh.
I
Yeah.
think when people don't experience that clarity part,
Mhm.
they're like, "Dude, this is crazy. This is a hallucinating event." And so
Yep.
that it is so hard to come back to like simple
Mhm.
clarity over and over and over. And that
Mhm.
I've found a lot of life in that now. It used to
Yep.
really frustrate me. And now
Yep.
it's like, oh, the gap between vision and performance is always filled with bad stories if it's not
Mhm.
clear. And
Yep.
so to fill that gap with clarity is work that I still have a lot to do, but
Mhm.
it's been really rewarding work.
Yeah, I really appreciate your honesty there because I think when you were saying that, I'm like, yes, because sometimes those questions, whether, I've experienced that as a faculty member
Mm.
in leadership roles,
Yes.
where I'm like, why am I getting so frustrated by this? And then recognizing one more step back, okay, I'm the common denominator. I did not communicate this as clearly if all of these questions are coming up. So I think I've learned to recognize some of that frustration is actually like just directed at myself. So I'm
100%.
like, okay, there's an opportunity to do better. How do we clarify this? And you're right,
Yes.
clarity is it's a moving target. And I think that's why it's so hard because your audience is coming from different perspectives
Yep.
and coming up with those different questions, and you're trying to formulate directions and answers to
Yes.
help them all. And you recognize it's not a one-time message.
Yes, yes. I have two quick thoughts. One
Mm-hmm.
is, as our friend Taylor Swift says, "I'm the
Mm-hmm.
problem. It's me."
Yeah.
It's like I'm the
Yep.
problem.
Yep.
Um, but then to relate it back to the
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs comment, what's brilliant about, and I don't know all the ins and outs of how he does his work, but Andy Reid as the head coach,
Yeah.
he very clearly has a system and a structure and a level of expectations and performance for the football team.
Yeah.
And what's true is he gives them so much flexibility to operate within that system.
Yeah.
They do crazy stuff like ring around the rosy plays, and they like the players have a big voice in that system.
Yeah.
But it's not outside of the bounds of what Andy wants and expects. And so I think of that a little bit sometimes when you talk about that clarity, because what is not being said is, a leader must dictate and direct every action in the business and be so specific. That's not clarity. That's like micromanagement, managing annoyance. But when you've got like big-hearted leaders who are trying to figure this out, what's really unkind is when that person doesn't formulate, okay, what is our system? What's our expectation? What are the standards here?
Exactly.
And when you don't clarify those standards, everybody loses.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because it's like setting up the guardrails, but then giving them agency within that system. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, beautiful leadership there, right? So let's think about curiosity now. And I love that you advocate for this. And I love that you connected it with listening earlier, because it's not something that I have thought about before, but you're right. A lot of times when we approach listening, it is through curiosity. And so, Justin, I'm wondering, for this titled leader who feels the pressure to always be on, to have all of these answers, what is one practical pause and pivot that you found? What is that step they can take, whether it's mid-meeting, to move from that mindset, that, the old control mindset, to one that is bounded in curiosity?
This is as practical and pragmatic as it gets. Every single meeting and work conversation, lead with a question. It's just like saturated into your every fiber and being. And it's so simple to show up and talk and say, like, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going, here's what's on the agenda, blah. But like, as simple as like, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, or as deep as like, hey, we're working on this project that, like, what are you seeing that I'm not? Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's in our core values, because we want to behave that way at Guild. We want to not just believe it, but behave that way.
Yeah.
And so we say lead with compassion and curiosity. And it is fundamental to understanding what they see and their perspective, because I've, again, on the opposite side, have blown it so often when I just assume, even without like a quote unquote bad experience, I'll just assume I know the way and just like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, blah, like jump on board.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, oh, wait, have you considered this? And it's like, no, actually, I didn't even think about that, but not once.
Right. Yep.
And so just that literally the pause and pivot is ask a question. At least one. Like sometimes there's a lot, but like at least fundamentally every single meeting, whether it's with a client, a colleague, a boss, like just make it your practice to ask the first question.
Yeah.
And it's incredible what happens with connection, because then, you leave those encounters in the, social world where someone has asked you a bunch of questions and you're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Leah is super cool. Like, how cool is she? And Dr. Leah didn't even hardly talk. She just asked a bunch of questions, right? So it's really crazy and awesome how connections form through curiosity.
Yeah. And I love then your prompting engagement, like you're building that into your workplace, because people want to be seen. You hired them for a reason. And for a lot of folks, that invitation is what they need to start leading in their own ways.
100%.
So I love that. And I was thinking too, that it's really brilliant that you partner compassion and curiosity, because sometimes curiosity alone, that can be perceived as a difficult trait, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking the devil's advocate, someone who's doing really important work, who's helping to guard against groupthink, but pretty quickly you can become, like, oh, do we have to invite that one? Do we have to invite them to the meeting, right? But when you bundle curiosity and compassion, that is a different type of communicator that leads to a different type of conversation.
Super cool. That's an interesting observation. Yeah, I didn't put that together. That's really smart. Yeah, and because we've all probably experienced the leader who is like peppering you with questions, like an interrogation
Yep.
or an investigation. Like that's
Yeah.
not compassionate curiosity. That's
Yep.
like critical curiosity.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so that's interesting that you said that. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's what came to mind. And so let's keep working with these C's. Let's think about consistency now. And so your framework highlights consistency as a pillar of modern leadership. And I couldn't agree more. And I'm wondering, Justin, from your perspective, how can that leader restructure their daily, kind of that set list of interactions to ensure these messages are actually connecting, they're landing, rather than just feeling like, oh, here's another black box of status updates, or like just kind of speaking at someone instead of with them?
Yeah, it's consistency is critical, and it's anything in life that you do small little things over time, they compound and they grow.
Yeah.
And when you know, all of us have done the like, hey, here's the brand new like fancy way to wear a weighted vest and work out, and then you do it like twice and you don't ever do it. I wore one this morning, that's why I was on my mind. But it's like, oh, and then you do this other thing, and then let's hop to this diet trend, and then like, oh, we're drinking like crazy water with salt in it. And you just hop like all these little micro moments, as opposed to these, what's actually true and has been for generations, is just like simple behaviors over long periods of time. They win, and they grow and they compound and they become as our friend Corey Shear would say, trustworthy. And then you can show up in a way that's like, oh, I know how she's going to treat me today. I know how he's going to treat me today. And when he blows it and says something dumb and, you know, hot-headed, he's going to at some point realize that he was an a-hole, and he's going to come back and say sorry. Right? Like that's consistency. And I relate it to building a fire. And it takes forever to start. And you have to do all this stuff, and you got to like blow on it and get it going and figure it out. And then you have to tend to it. You can't just walk away and leave it. You tend to it. And when the best campfires, when people gather around them, somebody has tended to the fire consistently. And that's where I kind of think that a lot of times leaders, they look for, me included, you look for a quick tip, a super, you know, conference to give you a motivation. You're like, oh, I read this one book on leadership, I'm good. It's like, no, bro, like this is this is a long journey of leadership that ultimately does grow and impacts people and provides shelter and fire and all that stuff. Anyway, but it's like, you got to do it for the long haul.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just thinking, there's this, when I think about commitment and consistency, we teach it as like it grows legs. So when you're committed to that weighted vest, then you're more likely to, you know, integrate a healthy, you know, drinking water ahead of time or after.
Yes.
And then when you're doing that, you're probably going to pick, you know, a healthier option for lunch than you might have if you hadn't done this work. And so I think too, when you are showing up and you're committed to being this curious, compassionate leader, that shows in those connections that you're forming. And like you said, if, you know, we all have those moments when the words come out before the brain has thought, but if we know we're going to do the repair work, right, those relationships are going to stay shored up.
Yes. So well said. I wrote down gross legs. I think that's so, it's so true. Like it does. And it starts to, you know, instead of a shame cycle or some weird, it's a virtue cycle. It starts to compound the other direction and create these moments and these flywheels where people are like, all right, I know, I kind of understand how this is going to work. His curiosity is for my good. His compassion is for my good. His clarity is not that clear yet, but he's working on it. Right. And then they understand, like, okay, that can be trusted. And I've got, lots of work to do there, but that's, grows legs is a cool phrase for sure.
Right. So we want to be consistent. We don't want to be the person that we're like, ooh, who's showing up today? So when we make those commitments, they can, like you said, really powerful. Not easy, especially in the beginning, to make that commitment. But yeah, we can do some good work that way. So
Yeah, I
let's
was
think
talking to
about,
our son.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
go
sorry. Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, please go ahead. Tell me. You're
No,
talking
I
to,
was just our son last night, and
mm-hmm,
he's having for a 16-year-old a difficult conversation
mm-hmm,
with a superior
mm-hmm,
coach, and and it was just this kind of simple moment of like, I was so proud of him because he's gonna do it, and I was like, bro, it's gonna take literally 10
mm-hmm.
seconds of courage, 10
Yep,
seconds,
yep,
and you're gonna feel some pressure, and he's gonna try to talk you out of your point of view, like that's
mm-hmm,
coming. But
yep,
think about once you're through that 10 seconds of awkward
yeah,
courage, on the other side of that is, not to be too dramatic, but it's like your
mm-hmm,
liberation. You don't have to play
yeah,
this sport anymore because he wants to,
yep,
he like wants to be done, and he's
yep,
clear on it.
yep, yep,
And it was just a really cool moment. It's like, man,
yeah,
I think we sometimes think of these huge, crazy things. It's like, it's a 10-second
mm-hmm.
conversation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's all that build up ahead of time. But what a powerful
100%.
moment for your son. And then once we do that, be like, hey, remember when you did that hard thing? You can do that. Yeah,
Yes.
that's so cool. So let's think about storytelling now. And I think this is something we've kind of been hinting at and dancing around. And I know that part of what you do, you help brands align their purpose with their messaging. And I'm wondering, how does a leader use communication to kind of get rid of this old stagnant company narrative and replace it with a new story that employees actually believe in and want to be a part of?
Good night. Yes, I love that question so
Mm-hmm.
much. The story is the oldest form of sales. Like, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
make it up.
Yeah.
Story is the way we
Mhm,
find ourselves as humans is in story, and it's not
mhm,
just sales, but we're talking about like a corporate context and how we help
mhm.
from like a brand and positioning standpoint.
Yeah.
And so we get companies that come to us, and they're begging, really, of like,
Mhm.
hey, we've tried this, like, we got a
Yep.
new logo, our website looks awesome,
Mhm.
our team is really great, and when they haven't realized that
Yep.
momentum or that kind of
Mhm.
compounding gain. And for us, it always comes back to, what is the strategic story you're telling? Because if
Yep.
you don't tell the story, somebody is going to tell it for you, because that's what we do. We're
Yeah. Yep.
storytellers.
Yep.
And we find ourselves in story.
Mhm.
And so, are they all true? No. Are they
No.
all amazing?
Yep.
No. But we find
Mhm.
ourselves in them, and we'll fill in the
Mhm.
gap. If we aren't encouraged to believe
Yeah.
a certain way, we will fill in
Mhm.
the gap with our own story. That's
Mhm.
just what we do. And so,
Yep.
on a consumer side, we'll encounter these messages, and they're incessant,
Mhm.
and they're so noisy,
Yep.
and almost all of them are about how these companies have really cool products to sell,
Mhm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And the consumer's
Mhm.
like, I'm not a mean person, but I don't care
Mhm.
about your product,
Mhm.
because I care about my pain, my frustration, my
Yep.
life, my relational challenges, my
Yep.
parenting struggle, my money, my
Mhm.
desires, my
Yep.
physical health, all this stuff. This is what I care about as the
Mhm.
consumer.
Yep.
And so and again, it's obviously not this simple, but the
Mhm.
turning of that prism to go like, hey, how can, as a brand, how can you tell
Mhm.
the story of your customer,
Mhm.
not your company? And it's almost like we're
Mm.
like, companies are out looking in the
Yeah.
woods through binoculars,
Yeah.
and they're looking the wrong way. They're like, where are all the deer? And they're like, bro, flip it
Yeah.
over. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't have the hero in focus. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but the same, what's been crazy about the work that we've started to figure out
Mhm.
these last several years is,
Yeah.
it's not just an external message, it's an
Mhm.
internal story. And it starts
Mhm.
there. And in fact, like, that's where purpose is lived out. It's like, values, you can hang
Yeah.
values on the wall, but if they're not lived out,
Yeah.
if they're not activated, and we call it the heartbeat of the brand.
Mm.
So if that
Mhm.
heartbeat isn't clear and
Yeah.
compelling and isn't strong internally first, then none of it really matters. You can have the coolest marketing in the world, if you don't have an internal culture
Yeah.
that believes in this story, it all falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I love that. I mean, it's such thoughtful communication. I mean, like, who's receiving this message and what is it that they're looking for, and both as the customer as and the employees, like
Yes.
your brand ambassadors having to be part of that heartbeat.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it all starts on the inside. It all does. And that's
Mm-hmm.
as we've gotten clear on our own positioning at
Yeah.
Guild is like, oh, this aligns with how
Mm-hmm.
we've done it ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's been really
Yeah.
cool.
Such a powerful way too to connect with your clients and be like, we understand we're
Yes.
monitoring and growing this the same way.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So, Justin, let's think about the ROI of caring. You're the central thesis of your book, and well, I see the leadership field shifting in huge and very optimistic ways. There are still a number of skeptical executives who just the spreadsheets, right? Or the scoreboard. What are these quarterly metrics? So for these folks out there, how have you found, how do you communicate that tangible ROI on investing in, the work of compassion, of communication for healthy workplace cultures? How do you make that sell?
Yeah, I need some help with
Mhm.
research down the road
Mhm.
because I want evidence. I want like, oh, this is
Mhm.
exactly how this plays out. But
Yeah.
but so we can talk about research down the road. But
Yeah.
what I want to communicate the most is this story of one of our clients at Guild who is a
Mhm.
multi-billion-dollar manufacturing business that has multiple locations across the country. Okay, so
Mhm.
call it like big corporate.
Yeah.
And they did this work, really brave, courageous
Mhm.
work of talking and getting the perspective of all of their in production level employees. Okay,
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
and, and to
Yeah.
give a distinction, before they did this work, they
Yeah.
used to call the management team salary and the production
Mhm.
team hourly.
Oof.
And even that, okay, this is like yeah, I see your face.
Mhm.
Like even
Yeah.
that
Like
shift
feeling very
alone,
uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah.
it broke the chain of what these kind of
Yeah.
old school mindsets were.
Yeah.
So anyway, they asked thousands of people their
Mhm.
perspective on like, how are we doing? What can we learn better?
Yeah.
What do you need? What do you want? The number one thing
Mhm.
in the research, in their perspectives in their survey that came back, the number
Mhm.
one thing was, I want my supervisor to know my first name.
Mhm.
I want you to call me by my name.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they literally, for a long time, the
Mhm.
supervisor had to say, like, I actually don't know your name. What is your name?
Yeah. Yeah.
Will you
Yeah.
put your name on your helmet, your hard hat for a
Mhm.
while so that I can, when I
Yeah.
see you, I can call you Leah instead of
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so that took a while. It wasn't like
Yeah.
overnight,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but but in 2026, and this is the point of your question,
Mhm.
they are fully staffed. They have a wait
Hmm.
list for employees. They
Wow.
are, and it's not, it doesn't have to be like this dramatic, but they are destroying their competition
Yeah.
because their competition is
Oh,
still in this old
yeah.
school mindset. And it's
Yep.
like, that works at a freaking production facility. Of course,
Yep.
it's going to work at your restaurant, at
Yep.
your white collar
Yeah. Oh,
business, at your
yeah.
professional services company, at your law
Yep.
firm. It's going to
Mhm.
work there, of course. If it can work,
Mhm.
and on a
Yes.
broader,
Yep.
on a more public scale, like you see
Mhm.
Chick-fil-A, and the founder of Chick-fil-A had a
Mhm.
quote that said, care and commerce can coexist. And
Mm.
they've built
Yep.
their entire
Yep.
business around care. And
Yep.
like, yeah, they sell chicken sandwiches and waffle fries, but they
Mhm.
they're like head and shoulders economically above their competitive set.
Yeah.
And they're only open 6 days a week.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And and you think about not just having a value poster on the wall, but living your values, right?
Yes.
That's what we've seen
Yes.
when they're like, "No, we're not open on Sundays."
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
you're going to get a pleasant experience when you buy the food. You're going to get
Yeah.
someone that says my pleasure instead of like nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow, the story of your client, I had goosebumps because you're right. So I think so often people think the solution has to be new tech or a brand new overhaul. Like it has to be this lengthy, expensive
No.
investment. And you're like, saying someone's name, knowing their name, addressing them by that name is so powerful.
Yes, because the
Mhm,
stats that I do know are 81%
mhm,
of United States employees dread Monday. Like legit, like
mhm.
dread is a heavy emotion.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
dreading work. Like that's crazy.
Yep.
And then,
Yep.
but the inverse is only 39% feel cared for.
Mm.
And it's like, that's the gap. Like the
Yeah.
gap to close is how do we close that gap? And our
Yep.
client did it and they have to keep
Yeah.
doing it. It's not a
Yep.
one-time thing.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's like you got to say, "Hey Leah, hey Leah, hey Leah,"
Yeah.
every morning when you
Yep.
see Leah, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, well, of course Leah wants to keep
Mhm.
working there because she feels known and understood
Yep.
and valued, and get like
Yep.
somebody gives a damn about me here. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, Justin, last two questions for you, and this is how we end all episodes of the Communicative Leader, and they're intertwined. So, it is the first part. What advice or tip or challenge do you want to leave with our titled leaders? And then the second part is, what is that advice, tip, or challenge for our employees across all ranks?
It's as you've heard, it's hard for me to be
Hmm.
concise. um, so I think for the quote unquote leader already, I
Yeah.
would say that it is your job to be on a compassionate curiosity crusade.
Mm,
When you
mhm,
say like, "Oh, I have an open door policy," or anybody can come see me, like they're not
mhm.
going to because they're
Yep,
scared, they're intimidated, and
yep.
they're afraid of you.
Mhm.
Go to them and seek their opinion. And
Yep.
yes, does it take more time and more courage? You
Mhm,
bet. But like the
mhm.
payoff is so freaking good. So I would say
Yep.
go on a compassionate curiosity crusade.
Yeah,
And then
love
and
that.
then to the team member, what I would say is you are already a leader. Leader's
Mhm,
not a title or an office. It
mhm.
is a
Yep.
invitation. And
Mhm,
and for you to right now today give a damn about
mhm.
yourself
Yep.
and have some
Mhm.
oomph, some gumption, as my high school football
Yeah.
would say, coach
Yeah.
would say, and believe that if you give a damn about yourself, not in a
Mhm,
selfish way, but in a put the
mhm.
oxygen mask on first kind of way,
Yeah. Yep.
you're able to then show up as a
Mhm,
leader to others. And corporations are
mhm.
begging for someone to step up and take the lead.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
at all
exactly.
sizes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
At our team of seven,
Exactly.
it's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yep.
all of y'all are leaders. I don't care what your title is. Like
Yeah.
figure it out, help us out. We got
Exactly.
plenty of problems
Yeah.
to solve.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that connection with leadership and caring about yourself because I think so often people underestimate what they have to give and their impact on others and their
100%.
ability to influence. And I think that's such a neat gift to equate it that way is that leading is caring about yourself.
Yes. My friend Brad Hill says,
Hmm.
take up all the damn space you need.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep.
take up the space. Take up the
Yep,
space.
exactly. And Justin, this has been such a fun conversation. I've learned so much. I want to applaud the work that you and your team do. You're making a difference. You are helping to transform. Like you shared, you have kids who will be entering these spaces soon, and it just makes me so hopeful.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed the
Hmm.
conversation. You've helped me a great deal, and I've learned a ton. And just really salute the work you do and that help shape future communicators and leaders for sure. It's so necessary.
Thank you.